Hey yoga mamas and friends. Today I'm going to share a little sort of tutorial on Ardha Uttanasana, which is also sometimes known as halfway lift or half intense stretch or upward forward fold. So what does that mean? Are we lifting? Are we folding? Are we bending? It's usually a pose that's in a sun salutation, and it's sort of a transition pose. We usually do something like, from Uttanasana, we reach up, exhale down, and then we halfway lift. And a lot of people just try their best to touch the floor, even if that means rounding their back or they bend their knees. So that's fine to bend your knees. I'm totally a fan of bending knees, but I thought I would do this tutorial to sort of give you an idea of what else you can do to keep that length in the spine. So I did show just for a second, sometimes people touch the floor with straight legs and then their back is super rounded. I mean, it's not inherently bad for you, but it kind of takes away from the essence of the pose, which is to open the chest, look a bit forward, and have that back lengthened. All right, so there's different ways to do this. Everyone's body is different. You might have longer legs or shorter legs than someone else. Maybe you have like an injury or something that prevents you from going a little deeper into it. But one thing I want to say is that props are fantastic. And I've been doing yoga for more than 2 decades, and it took me almost that entire time to decide that using props can actually be like a more advanced form of yoga, whatever advanced means, because when you learn to use props properly, you have to develop a sense of like what it is your body needs. So let's say I come into halfway lift, and I'm there and I'm like struggling to reach the ground, but I don't really want to bend my knees because I want to open up the back of my legs. And then I just decide, hey, no big deal, I'm going to use blocks. Another option is, especially if you don't have blocks, just to bring the hands to the shins, and they can even be up on the thighs, and that's totally fine. What we're looking for here is a hinge at the hip. So if you imagine my Uttanasana with my lengthened spine, my lengthened legs, and if I take my hands to the hips, which you could do with me now, I'm just putting my hands on my hips, and then I'm hinging. So both the legs and the spine stay long, and just the pelvis or the hips are hinging forward like a door hinge. So the length stays here, and just moving at the level of the hips. And then when I feel that stretch to the point where I want to stop, the next question is, where do my hands go, right? So rather than just have them dangle, you find that place where your hands feel comfortable, like on your shins, on your thighs, on the blocks, or on the ground. If you like using the wall or a chair, that's also another option. So let's say you have a chair, you do your Uttanasana, you hinge forward, and you bring your hands to the chair. And while this might not look to you like Ardha Uttanasana, you're actually doing very much the same thing you would do in the pose, just with the arms extended forward. And that's fine. You're getting a little shoulder opening here too, and you're also exploring that lengthened spine and that hamstring stretch. And if you want to bend the knees a little bit, totally fine too. As I mentioned, Ardha Uttanasana is normally a pose that we just pass through. It's seen as a transition pose, and it's there to help you open your chest before you jump back and do your chaturanga or your lunge or whatever type of sun salutation you're doing. But I wanted to take a moment and just kind of get into it and stay, even if it's just a few breaths, and kind of see what's there, because it can be sort of a standalone pose. It can be so nice as a way to counteract any slouching you might do, or just to open up your hamstrings, or even just to get a little moment of down regulation in your nervous system. If you're feeling really tense, frustrated, or stressed, just that forward bending and bringing the head a little lower can be really therapeutic. So let's try it. So one way I like to do it, which is very unconventional, is just to stand in Uttanasana. Get blocks nearby if you want them, or a chair if that's what you want. But just start really basic, and even wiggle your toes. Really pay attention to your Uttanasana. This is your basic standing pose. And feel the weight where it comes down through your feet. You can take a moment to shift your weight side to side or front to back. And find that point where you feel that you're resting evenly on both feet from side to side and front to back. Take a breath in, feel the spine lengthening, the chest opening. And then exhale, relax your arms. Feel the place where your feet are resting on the ground, soles of your feet. Take another breath in, put the palms of your hands to the top of your thighs. As you breathe in, slightly expand the chest, open it up, and exhale, and just begin to hinge at the hip and slide your hands down your legs. So if you're at a point and you want to use a chair, go ahead and reach your arms forward and do that. Keep the length in the spine, the chest is open. And then if you feel like you can keep going, just keep sliding the hands further down the legs. Maybe you get to the shins, maybe the arms straighten. And stay there and breathe. 1 or 2 or 3 breaths. You can add a little wiggling by turning the head side to side. You might bend one knee and the other. A yoga pose, yeah, it's a pose, but it's not a rigid, you don't become a statue in a pose. You're still alive, you're moving, you're making micro adjustments, you're breathing. All right, if this is your resting point here, stay there. Or you can slide further down, maybe the fingertips come to the ground, or if you prefer a block, 2 blocks, I mean even 1 block is fine. Blocks have different settings, so it could be in the low, the medium, or the high setting. So find what works best for you. You might notice that with blocks, the palms of your hands touch the ground flat, the blocks flat, as opposed to fingertips touching. So see how that might feel different. Whichever you're touching with, fingertips or palms of your hands, push into that surface so that your shoulder blades slowly widen apart and you get that nice stretch in the upper back. This is a little stretch we don't always get if we're just passing through. It's so nice. The breath is still moving. You might look slightly forward in the pose. That's part of it. So head is not hanging or looking straight down. You're kind of looking forward as if you're going to jump forward a few feet and you're looking at your landing place. All right, good. So let's exhale. Come down by bending the knees. So if you kind of struggle with squats, you can come onto the knees like that, or you can come down into a squat and just take it easy. So I hope that was just a nice little moment for you to rest in a forward bend and stretch your legs, open your chest. Another cool way to do this pose is from the ground up. So let's say you're in a squat or you're kneeling, whatever you're doing, hands to the blocks to start out with. And then let's say you're doing a squat, and just slowly straighten the legs. And as you do, notice that my spine stays lengthened. I'm not rounding at any point. I'm just keeping it lengthened, chest is open, I'm looking forward. And then maybe the legs stay a little bent, which is fine. Or maybe they straighten, and I might have to shimmy and get to that point where my hips are above the ankles. And you'll notice also that my wrists are beneath my shoulders. So if you're here and you're like, I don't need these blocks, you could just knock them out of the way, put your hands on the ground. Or if you start to feel like, hey, I like that feeling of touching my legs and having my hands rest there, and it can be like a very grounding feeling to touch your legs as you stay here and breathe, enjoy it, and then you decide when to come out. Awesome. So I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully it wasn't too much nerding out for you. It was a lot of focus on one pose, and I know that everyone's busy and always trying to find time to do yoga, but I hope that kind of brought some light to a pose that we often overlook. Give it a try. Let me know what you think, and share this with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thanks.